Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. We're going to be diving deep into the foundational texts of cell biology to unravel what is, essentially, the ultimate microscopic mystery of our biological origins. We're talking about the structural and functional units that make up literally every single living thing on this planet. It's a story of survival, of ancient, unlikely alliances, and of the incredible biological architecture that makes you, me, and the whole world around us possible. So, let's jump right in.
Okay, I want you to think about this for a second. If you had to categorize all life on Earth into just two fundamental groups, how would you do it? I mean, your first instinct might be to say plants versus animals, right? Or maybe things on land versus things in the ocean. But if we really look closely at the biological blueprints provided by our source material, we realize the true dividing line isn't something you can even see with the naked eye. The real divide is entirely microscopic. All right, Section 1. Two branches of life. Now, take a look at the sheer scale of the timeline we're dealing with here. Starting way back, you see the emergence of prokaryotes about 3.5 billion years ago. These were the very first forms of life, the absolute pioneers. But notice the massive gap before the second major event. It wasn't until roughly 2.0 billion years ago that eukaryotes emerged. That means for a staggering 1.5 billion years, simple, single-celled organisms ruled this planet completely alone. Let's step forward and see how this ancient blueprint actually works in practice.
Moving on to Section 2, the power of simplicity, prokaryotes.
So what exactly is a prokaryote? Basically, it is the original, streamlined biological blueprint. It lacks a nuclear membrane. So instead of having some highly guarded vault for its DNA, the genetic material just kind of hangs out in an open area called the nucleoid region. When we talk about prokaryotes today, we are mostly talking about bacteria and archaea. They're ancient, they're incredibly tiny, but they are undeniable survivors.
Let's break down their toolkit a bit. Think of a prokaryotic cell like a highly efficient, single-room workshop. There are literally no walls dividing up the space, meaning no membrane-bound organelles. Energy production? That doesn't happen in a separate boiler room. It happens right at the cell membrane. They synthesize proteins using smaller, 70S-type ribosomes. And because this design is just so beautifully simple, they can reproduce incredibly fast. It's really a numbers game. This rapid reproduction gives them a remarkably high adaptability to diverse and, honestly, sometimes extreme environments.
Which brings us to Section 3, the miracle of complexity, eukaryotes.
Now, if prokaryotes are that single-room workshop, eukaryotes are the massive, compartmentalized megafactory. A eukaryote features a membrane-bound nucleus, so a dedicated, highly secure headquarters for its DNA, and highly specialized membrane-bound organelles. Animals, plants, fungi, protists, literally everything you can see around you, including yourself, is built out of these eukaryotic megafactories.
The contrast in design here is just brilliant. Eukaryotes have multiple linear chromosomes locked safely inside that nucleus. They utilize larger ADS-type ribosomes. But the real game changer is the division of labor. Eukaryotes possess specific organelles like the mitochondria for power generation, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the whole shebang. This high energy efficiency and highly specialized internal division of labor is exactly what allows for complex tissue, organs, and ultimately multicellular organisms to even exist.
But, this brings us to a massive biological puzzle. How on earth did life jump from a simple single-room workshop to a highly specialized megafactory? You don't just spontaneously generate complex internal structures and power plants overnight. Evolution is generally this slow, incremental process. Yet the gap between these two cellular architectures is absolutely staggering.
Let's get into Section 4, the decisive evolutionary event.
Here is where the story gets wildly fascinating. Modern biology explains this massive jump using the endosymbiotic theory. And it's not some story of slow, gradual changes. No, it's an ancient, high-stakes merger. The theory posits that complex eukaryotic cells didn't just build their organelles from scratch. They acquired them when one prokaryotic cell actually swallowed another. But, and here's the ultimate plot twist, instead of digesting it for a quick meal, they formed a permanent, revolutionary alliance.
Let's walk through exactly how this played out chronologically, roughly 2 billion years ago. Step 1. A larger host cell belonging to the archaea lineage engulfs an aerobic, oxygen-breathing bacterium. Step 2. Over time, that engulfed bacterium evolves into the mitochondrion, acting as a dedicated power plant for the host. Step 3. In certain lineages, which, by the way, would eventually become plants, the host cell goes on to engulf a photosynthetic cyanobacterium. And step 4, those cyanobacteria evolve into chloroplasts. I mean, they literally swallowed their way to complexity.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that sounds like a crazy science fiction story. How do we know this actually happened? Well, actually, scratch the sci-fi idea, because the smoking gun is right in front of us. If you look inside the cells of your own body right now, your mitochondria have a double membrane, the inner one from the original bacterium and the outer one from when it was engulfed. And even more incredibly, your mitochondria, and plant chloroplasts for that matter, still possess their own independent DNA, completely separate from the DNA in the cell nucleus. It is the literal evolutionary footprint of an ancient bacterial past, just hanging out inside you right now.
And finally, Section 5, 2 survival strategies.
So let's bring this all together. What we're really looking at here are 2 incredibly successful, yet completely opposite survival strategies dominating the Earth today. On one hand, you have the prokaryotes. Their strategy relies on simplicity, fast multiplication, and a downright ruthless adaptability to almost any environment on the planet. On the other hand, eukaryotes took the path of complexity. Their strategy is all about internal specialization and cooperation, allowing individual cells to team up, form tissues, and create the spectacular diversity of complex, multicellular life. They're both fundamental to life, but they play the survival game with completely different rulebooks.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. If the very power plants inside our cells, the mitochondria, that give us the energy to think, to move, to live, are the direct descendants of engulfed ancient bacteria, well, how independent are we really? Are humans, at our core, just walking, talking, highly complex colonies of ancient cooperating bacteria? It kind of changes how you look at yourself in the mirror, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive into the cellular divide sparked your curiosity as much as it did mine. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.